I know in my case, being in survival mode, I was already hyper alert, right? Hyper
Mm-hmm.
vigilant about everything around me. And then, God forbid, something happened. And then it was
Yeah.
just over the top. My
Yeah.
reaction to it was so over the top. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I know that those of us that are healing from our trauma, a lot of us deal with that. And then when you've got a new mom who's got hormones going through her body and she's, yeah, and everything that's going on that we just described, it's got to be, I can remember for me how hard it was. So, what are some tips that we can give these moms to help them with this anxiety and all these emotions and thoughts and feelings that are going through our heads?
Well, my first thing is I want to just reassure all those moms out there that might be feeling that A, you're not crazy.
Yes. Yes, you're
That's the first
normal.
step.
You're
You're
normal.
not crazy. It is normal to be feeling anxiety as a new mom, and even more normal for you to have more anxiety if you have a traumatic past. And that's okay, and that's normal. Because I think one of the first things that can happen is you start to freak out that, what, am I crazy? Am I going crazy? And then
Yes.
worrying about that just makes it worse. So the
Yeah,
first
you
thing
spiral.
is you're not crazy. The second thing is, basic, getting back to as much basic self care as possible. And
Hmm.
this is true whether you're a new mom or, frankly, if you're a mom of a teenager or somebody out of the house, even. Moms, we're not the best at self care.
Hmm.
We constantly put ourselves on the back burner. We're so busy doing all these other things. But I think it's especially true. I have never met a new mom that is doing really well with what I call the big five of self care. And the big five are the five things that if we do these things, it's not that it fixes everything in life, but rather that it just makes everything in life a little bit easier to cope with.
Yes.
And they're kind of the foundation. And to me, if you do anything, you should start with these big five. And frankly, if I have a client come to me for therapy, we start with these big five because it doesn't matter how great of a therapist I am for that 1 hour. If we're not doing these big five, you're still going to be a hot mess. So
So
we
this
always
helps you when
start.
you're not in therapy, right? Or what,
Yes.
through life.
Yes, yes. So the big five in my book, the things that you need to be paying attention to, whether you're a new mom or not, is eat, sleep, move, fresh air and sunshine, and spirituality and or community.
I love it.
And when you look at those five things, I have never met a new mom that is eating right, sleeping right, moving
Nope.
right, getting outside, and having spirituality and community practices that looked anything like it was before. And that is not a blame game. That is just the situation of
Right.
motherhood makes that really, really hard.
Right.
And so trying to find little ways to get back on track with that. Things like, really with the eating, the big thing I push from a mental health perspective is hydration. So lots of
Hmm.
water and protein. Protein helps to even out your blood sugars, and blood sugars that are all over the place can trigger cortisol releases that triggers anxiety. So the more we can stabilize our blood sugars, the more our
Calm.
cortisol
Yes.
stabilizes. So,
Hmm.
water and protein are the big ones that I talk about with all my clients. So, that's
Hmm.
eat. Sleep is a mess when you got a newborn, but making sure that you try to whenever you can. If you need to invite a friend over, a family member, if you need to tag in your partner, if you need to, I've had when I had babies, I had some friends come over and, can I hold a baby while you take a nap? And I was like, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh.
that sounds perfect. Like, they're like, do you need anything? I'm like, yes, here, hold this.
I'm gonna go sleep.
And so you take a nap. So, like, finding it as many ways as you can to
Hmm.
get as good sleep as you can and not stressing too much about the baby's sleep. Because, ironically, when moms stress about how much their baby is sleeping or not, it tends to actually make the mom's sleep worse.
Yeah.
So if you need to, bring that baby into bed to snuggle while you take a nap, then you do it. Like, you do the things that you need to do for your sanity to get as much sleep as possible. So eating, sleeping, moving, obviously
Hmm.
right after you've given birth or had a C-section or whatever, there's some limitations. But being able to, find ways that are small things to start moving. I love, there's there's a model that's 555, and I feel like I'm suddenly going to forget it now that I'm bringing it up. But it's like the first the first 5 days you should hang out in bed. The next 5 days you should hang out on bed. So you should still basically be
Resting.
resting. And then the next 5 days you should be near the bed. So we're talking 15 days after birth that you shouldn't be like trying to go for runs or
Oh gosh,
whatever
no.
and cleaning the whole house or whatever. Sedentary. But then the rest of motherhood, finding little ways to be active with that baby. Strap that baby to you and go for a walk.
Yeah.
Hang out with your teenagers by like I like to have any kind of harder conversations with my teenagers by going for a walk in the neighborhood with them. Gets them out of the house, away from their siblings that might be trying to eavesdrop. Gives us parallel instead of having to stare at each other in the eyes. We can
Yes.
like be next to each other as we talk about some of the harder things. So you can incorporate movement into so many different parts of motherhood. And notice I'm saying movement, not working out, not exercise, because I want this to be something that you enjoy. Like it shouldn't be, I have to do this. If you
Or
love
a
going to the
job.
gym, yeah, if you love going to the gym, by all means, make that part of your life.
Right.
But if you're like, I hate going to the gym, find movement that you enjoy. If you love to dance to music, if you love to go for walks or do yoga, or, I live in Colorado, so in the winter I love snowboarding, in the summer I love paddleboarding. Like, I like to move in those ways. So,
Yeah.
but movement, when you've got a fresh baby, can be hard. So finding little things. But again, mothers across the lifespan, we find different ways, and it looks different in different seasons.
Right. Right.
Fresh air and sunshine, minimum of 20 minutes a day whenever possible. Even if that just means you're sitting outside and drinking a cup of coffee outside.
Yep.
It does not have to be dramatic, but you can double dip with your movement, which is always fun. And then the last one, spirituality and community. And the big reason that that's so foundational for our self-care is it connects us to something bigger than ourselves. A lot of times when we're dealing with depression or anxiety or just that ick of life, we
Yeah.
get really, it's like the world kind of closes in on us.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So we tend to be really focused on ourselves. We're really focused on our kids. We're really focused on whatever it is immediately around us. But that community and spirituality connection kind of reminds us that there's a whole world out there.
Yeah. There's
And
more than
we're-
just us.
Yes. And that tends to have a huge impact on people.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my quick and dirty version of it.